Hi, welcome. I am here with Mark, fellow photographer and author, coming out with his new poetry book, Nightmare on the 12th. I'm interviewing him, asking him a couple questions. How are you doing today, Mark?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing great. So I have about 13 questions here. And I'm going to start with some kind of icebreaker questions just to get started. So where are you from?
I am from the suburbs of Chicago in Illinois. Yeah.
Nice. Have you always been there?
Yeah, I've always lived here my whole life. I live about like 40 minutes away from Chicago, but I live in the kind of countryside, kind of middle of nowhere almost.
Oh, nice. Do you like it?
Yeah, I love it. I love it. It's far away from everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the best. When you're not writing, what are you doing? Like, what are some of your hobbies?
So I'm usually playing some type of video game, usually just Animal Crossing or Sims, the only games I'm good at. Um, and when I'm not playing a game or writing, I'm usually just hanging with friends or being with family, or I like going for walks. I think now I like being alone a lot. I think
Okay.
it helps me be recharged, or I like to meditate. I like to uh, sometimes read if I have time. Usually I do that. Or I don't know, maybe watch a movie.
And nice. Awesome. So are you kind of like introverted, you'd say?
I'm a mixture of both. I've learned that I'm a mixture of both. I used to say that I was really extroverted, and now that I'm like kind of getting older, I feel like I'm getting more of a mixture of both. Like I really like alone time, but I really, really love being with people. I feel like I feel the most me when I'm around like people, I think. So
Oh,
I don't really
yes.
know. I'm like a mixture of both.
Best of both worlds. Nice. So
Yeah.
tell me more about your photography. What inspires your art with that?
So I got into photography when I was in high school, and it was just kind of like a class I took just like on the side because I was like, I don't know, I feel like I could be good at it. I don't know. And then the more and more I got involved with like the storytelling aspect of like photography, I found that it was a really good avenue to express like things I was dealing with. So I got really involved with it and I started doing like a lot of weird photos in school. And like a lot of my classmates were doing like very like normal stuff, I guess. And like I always liked to just do something really, really weird or like really, really like different from everybody else, not for any particular reason, but I just always gravitated to just always like pushing the boundary of like trying to do something that I thought was cool that other people might think would be weird or grotesque or something. So I got really involved with it in high school, and then I just kept going and going after I graduated. And I really, really loved posting stuff on Instagram and like edits I would do. And I kind of just found this big confidence of after shooting like the same people for so long. Like I used to like have only like one photo shoot with like one model that was my friend at the time. Like we would just do like all these shoots. And then I was always behind the camera. And then I kind of just found confidence in just trying to do stuff of myself, almost like a alter ego almost. And I found a lot of confidence doing that. And, you know, I taught everything myself and used what I had from high school. And it just became a really big like coping mechanism almost. Like if I was feeling a certain way, I would just like make some type of weird fantasy edit of like what I was feeling, I guess. And I guess people kind of liked it, I guess. So I just kept
Yeah.
on doing it and I love doing it. It's definitely like a good avenue for me because I'm such a visual artist. So I think it's the biggest thing I can like express myself with.
Yeah, no, I love that. And yeah, seeing your Instagram page, your pictures are so unique and I like the kind of storytelling in them. It's really cool.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
I try to do like mini stories with each photo, I guess. And it's really fun because I would just, especially during the lockdown that happened last year, that's all I could do was
Mhm.
just like try to come up with ideas to keep me busy while locked in for so long. And it was like my best way to pass time. And I think that's like when I really started to get really into it. And I think that's like when people started, I think, liking it, and I would get a lot of like good like feedback.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. So lots of inspiration came out from that. Yeah, being at home, kind of all this time to yourself.
Yeah, yeah.
Awesome. That's great. So when did you first become passionate about writing? And tell me more about your writing journey as a whole.
Mhm. So as a kid, I always wanted to write stories. I always wanted to, but I was really, really bad at finishing them. And I remember my mom, she would like have like the notes app like on the laptop open for me as like a kid, and I would just kind of just like press the buttons and try to like write sentences. And I always wanted to write stuff about like a movie I saw. It was never something original. I always wanted to like rewrite all these movies I saw and stuff. And then when I would go to bed and the next morning, my mom would like finish it and like print it out. And I always thought that was like so fun
Oh,
and a really good memory. So like when I got into high school, I was taking photography. And then I think my senior year, I took a creative writing class just like as a whim. And I
mhm.
was like, I really want to write stories. And then I didn't know that the whole half of the class was all poetry and like literature. Like I hated poetry. I was so bad at it. I couldn't understand
No
it.
way.
I hated it. I was like, I don't get it. Like, I don't like reading it. It's so boring. And I remember I did one assignment and it was like write about a subject that like, has human characteristics to it. So I went home and I wrote about my shadow. And like as a kid, like I was always so scared of the Peter Pan scene when his shadow would like detach from his body, like on the wall. So I
Mhm.
wrote about that. And it was about my shadow trying to kill me. And my teacher loved it. And then I just kind of, started writing just for assignments. And then as slowly but surely, I started really realizing that I was like, I think this is another avenue for me to express, emotions, and then I just started kind of going from there. And then I all of a sudden it was like a switch that went off. I just found this like really good avenue and I couldn't stop. I would come home from school and just like sit on my floor and just like write for hours and hours. And like it's funny because a lot of it in the beginning was just for assignments.
Yeah.
So I just found like a really nice like avenue through that. And it all started in school. um, and yeah, it pretty much started in high school and stuff. I had a really good teacher. I had a really good experience with that class. So I think that's like what really kind of kickstarted my like liking for writing. And I then I fell in love with poetry because I thought it was so fun. And I loved that there weren't a lot of rules with a
Mhm.
lot of literature and writing poetry in general.
Awesome. Yeah, no, that sounds great. So, who are some authors or some stories that have shaped your writing style for the way it is today?
Um, I would say I would say R.L. Stein. I love the Goosebumps series. I'm wearing on my shirt. I
Love
love
it.
I loved Goosebumps growing up so much as a kid. And I loved any type of like spooky book you could read for like a kid or a teenager. I loved Mary Down. I loved Stephen King. I read in high school. I started to really love him. And I think a mixture of all of those authors really shaped my writing style. But I also really love music. And I think a lot of musical artists really inspire me too. And because music and songs is just like poems in general
Mhm.
when you
Yeah.
read it, just like lyrics. So I would always be really inspired by musicians like Lady Gaga. I'm always inspired by, she's like my idol, and then like I really fell in love with like, Marina, Lana Del Rey. I love Melanie Martinez. I love Ethel Kane. And I think a lot of like musical artists inspire me just as much as authors. And I feel like they are authors. They're just putting music to the story that they're trying to portray. So I would say those people definitely shaped my writing style.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I totally agree with you um, about music. Do you listen to music while you write?
I do. I do.
Yeah.
It's always different for each project. I
Okay.
can't really listen to stuff with words because then it kind of confuses me when I'm writing. Um,
Yeah.
and I don't know if it's because in school my teacher used to do that. He would play this one track every time we would write in class, and everyone used to make fun of him for it. And I thought it was so like whatever. And then when I started writing on my own, I felt like my brain was like so loud that I like had to calm it down by listening to something that was going to influence what I wanted to write about. So like in the beginning, for like my first project, Lost Lullabies, I was listening to a lot of like music box type of like sounds, very like toy sounds, very creepy music instrumental to like to inflict some type of inspiration I was trying to write about. And I think for Nightmare, I was listening to a lot of like instrumental heavy, like grungy type of industrial sounds, and like lo-fi beats. I really love just like a very classic, just
Mhm.
soft lo-fi beat when I write. It's definitely just like zones me out and stuff. And I feel like I'm in the world I'm trying to tell through the poem, I think. So music
Wow.
definitely is a huge part of my work, I think.
Yeah, that's awesome. No, you described that perfectly. Thanks, Mark. Tell me about your character represented in your books, Mark Divine.
So Mark Divine was a character I created back when I was first kind of starting out. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And I just remember like sitting with my friends one day being like I want to put out a book. I don't want to be, me, but like it is me. I was like, I need to create this alter ego. So I kind of just like my friends just started calling me Mark Divine like as a joke. And I thought that was like gonna be like my name. And then like it just kind of stuck. So I just kind of was like, oh, it's kind of just like this character that I want to be. And I want to portray this person through my art. And then I didn't really know who he was at the time starting out. And then I think as I started kind of writing and letting the character kind of fester in the corner of my mind, it started to turn into this like almost like fantasy version of myself that like I don't want to be. He's like the most bitter, angry, very evil side of me. Like I feel like everybody has a mixture of good and evil in them. And I feel like the bad parts of me is Mark Divine. It's like someone I like don't want to be at all. But I can't control it because he's a part of me.
Yeah.
So I just kind of like, in poetry, you learn that like whoever is talking in the poem is the speaker. And I hated when I would learn about that stuff in school. I was like, but who's the speaker? Like, what's their name? Like, who are they? And I guess it's up for your interpretation. And I just really liked putting a name for the person who's in my poetry. I really liked putting a name on it because my poetry is so personal. So that's why it was like, it is me, but it's this version of me that is in this world. And I just kind of created him as a coping mechanism. And it was someone that I just really wanted to be in like really hard times. And then I realized that, yeah, I don't know if I want to be you anymore. Like, so I would say it's the kind of like a alter ego, kind of like this like evil twin dynamic, especially in Nightmare. It's very like very much like that. So yeah.
Nice. But do you feel like because of this character, you can be more raw and real in your writing because it's not
Oh
necessarily like you, like, like,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah, I definitely can. I feel like now I'm kind of just like, wasn't me. Like it's Mark Divine, like it's not me. like I just blame things on him now. So it's like it's fun to like write through the eyes of what I think his story is. And there's obviously so many differences between like me as a person and like the character, and like I think it became a lot more easier writing Nightmare, my newest project that's coming out, because I kind of like told myself, I was like, okay, like let's see where this character goes. Like, what do I want to do with the Mark Divine character? And like, I think I just like it was this like big like boost. It was almost like a shield of like confidence, being like, it's a character. Like, I can do anything I want with him. Like, because I
Mhm.
created him. Like he's not gonna get up and leave me. It's like. So it definitely gave me a lot of confidence writing through the eyes of a character because I love telling stories. So it's like I obviously will always be making some type of character or characters with his story. And
Yeah,
it's
of course.
really fun to make concept poetry books. I didn't really know that they were a thing until I started like writing my own and seeing other people do it. And I was like, it's so fun. Like,
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Well, speaking of poetry books, what inspired you to become an indie author, self-publishing your first poetry book, Lost Lullabies, at 18?
yes. So I think right after high school, I just like got really involved with like writing poetry. And I was like, I want to release a book. I'm going to do it. I don't know how the hell I'll do it, but I'm going to do it.
It's
And
awesome.
like, it's funny because when I wrote that, like my teacher at the time had a student's book on the desk, and I would see it every day when I would go into class. And I just remember thinking in the back of my mind, like, I want to do that. I want to do that. And I would tell my teacher, being like, how can I do it? And, he's like, oh, she got lucky. Need to know these people. You need to network. And I was like, I don't think this is going to happen. And, it's just a dream, I guess. I guess I have to hold on to all my poems forever. And then I just like researched really hard and fought really hard. And that
Oh,
whole summer, I just like wrote all summer in my room with like one friend. And we just like worked on it so hard that I don't know what happened, but I just was able to do it.
it
And it
just
was,
happened.
yeah, it just happened. Like it created itself, and it just happened. And I think a lot of people in the beginning were kind of like, yeah, ha ha ha, like, it's a lot more work than you think. Like maybe you should look into something else. And, and I was just kind of like, eye of the tiger, like I want to prove everyone wrong.
Good.
And I was very, very angsty. I was still a teenager. I was writing up so much about like bitterness, stuff with friends, stuff with myself. I just wanted to write about everything because I thought that was the only opportunity I had to write just that one project. And it was a complete mess. I wish I could go back and change so much of it, but I'm so proud of it. But I just started writing that. And while I was writing that, I was writing Heartbreak Hotel, and right after Heartbreak Hotel, I was writing Nightmare. And like, I'm always working on the next when I'm like working on the one. I'm never like stable. um,
Oh, that's good. You're a dreamer
yeah,
and you got goals. That's amazing.
yeah, I just never stop. Like, I
Good.
just can't. But yeah, it all kind of started with Lost Lullabies, and it's been kind of like a crazy journey since then. I feel like I've changed so much as a writer and also as an artist. And I've met so many people, and I've kind of just like, it's kind of just blossomed ever since then, which has been really fun.
That's awesome. Yeah, so tell me more about Heartbreak Hotel, your second self-published poetry book, and tell me more about your writing process, some of your inspiration for that.
Yeah, so Heartbreak Hotel was written like a week before I released Lost Lullaby. So I already had the concept and everything. And then I think through putting out Lost Lullabies, I realized that I really wanted all my books, or at least all my poetry books in the Mark Divine universe, to be a conceptual story from start to finish. Because Lost Lullabies is just kind of like a collection of my poems that I had for so long that I just wanted to put out. And I just remember kind of like thinking about my trauma and my pain. And growing up, I lost a lot of people. I lost a lot of family members. I lost my mom to cancer when I was 16. I was dealing with so much like grief. And then I wasn't seeking help. I wasn't getting the proper attention that I needed. And I was just face down into a notebook all the time, putting everything in there. And I realized when I would be upset, or I would cry, or I would, go into a dark place, it felt like I would go into it and deal with it and then come out, and then I would feel better. And it reminded me of checking in and out of a hotel. And it was almost like this weird metaphor, being like, I'm checking in and I'm going to deal with it, go on this like really awful vacation, and then I'm going to come out and I'm going to be okay. So that was kind of like the whole concept of Heartbreak Hotel. And then it was kind of inspired by the Elvis song too. And I just wanted to create this place that these people go into to deal with all their negative stuff through life and their pain, and then they check out and then they come stronger, I guess. So Mark Divine is portrayed in the beginning of the story as this very vulnerable, very insecure, very sad individual who's run away from home, who checks into this massive hotel in Los Angeles. and deals with all this pain and meets people and sees all these things happening around him. And the book starts out with checking in and ends with checking out. So there's like little things like that. The artwork was very inspired by really like just like eerie images that I kept seeing through my head. And it was a very dark, very emotional, very depressing project. And I really, really loved working with it. And I worked with a lot of my friends on it. So my friends and I, it was just like this big, like therapeutic therapy session every night. It was so fun to write. And, there were a lot of tears and pain writing it, but it was fun. There was a lot of fun moments in it, like writing just storylines for characters we made up that were completely funny and just, all this stuff. So that was the main concept for the book. It was a big symbol of pain, but also the light at the end of the tunnel. I think every project I've made always has some sort of light and dark, and it's always just the in between. That's what my art is. So yeah.
Oh, I love that. Oh, well, thanks for
Thank you.
sharing. You're such an artist, like just
Thank you.
artistically, I'm so impressed. That's awesome.
Oh, thank you. I tried.
Well, talk to me about the most recent poetry collection you've been working on, Nightmare, set to release on the 12th. That's so exciting.
Yes.
Congrats.
Thank you so much. Oh my God, Nightmare has taken so long.
Yeah.
I started writing it as a continuation to Heartbreak Hotel way back in 2019. And the book changed so many times. And at first I was like, maybe I'll write stories, maybe it'll be about nightmares and dreams. And then I just started writing poetry again, because usually when I release something or when I'm done with a project, I take a break and I know what's next, but I kind of just let myself breathe, I guess. But I just started writing poetry again, and I was like, okay, this stuff is stacking up, and I'm kind of writing about this same kind of concept. And it became, I had another idea in mind, but Nightmare kind of took place of that before I go into the next one. So I don't know, it just started like piling up, and I was like, well, there's something here and I don't know what it is. So I kind of just sat in the back burner for a long time, and I didn't know what Nightmare was really going to become. And then the pandemic hit. So that took a really big dump on like my creative plans and what I wanted to do and how I was going to kind of portray this project. And I just kind of like thought about different topics I wanted to write about. And um, yeah, it just kind of festered into itself. And it's a big metaphor for not only like pain and trauma, but it's, I think through the pandemic, we had a lot of like soul searching to do, and we're like locked in a way in our houses for so long. And I did a lot of inner looking into myself, and I realized that I was not happy, and I was very, very sad and very depressed. And I was going through a lot of stuff that has happened to me that I haven't, you know, like gotten help for, I think. So when I started to get help, I started reflecting more, and Nightmare became a coping mechanism that I would write for my trauma, I guess. So it was kind of just like this big trauma dump as a project. I just throw everything into there. And I really liked the way it was coming. And it was really, really dark. And, and then I don't know, I feel like I'm talking everywhere, but it's like kind of like Nightmare is kind of like, a dream, but it was almost like a metaphor for having a trauma response. So like whenever I slip into a PTSD kind of episode, I like it feels like a nightmare. So it was kind of like that for me personally, as a symbol as like mental health and everything I was going through and things I like couldn't get help with. And, and through the Mark Divine story, it's kind of this escape through, he leaves the hotel, he burns it down thinking that's going to solve his problems. And he's running through the woods and he finds this big, massive, creepy house in a field. And he decides to basically squat there and just kind of like live his days there. Mm-hmm. And I think through the pain and trauma, he's this like arsonist on the run and just, it's kind of like the cover and burns on his house. There's these, demons and men around him and these weird kind of images and, and he basically becomes the demon. And that's like what I felt like writing the book. I felt like I was becoming my trauma, becoming the demon that I didn't want to be. And I felt like something else was possessing me when I would go into these kind of like altered states of, these responses I was having. And I think that was the biggest kind of like thing with the book, I guess. But I'm doing a lot better now. But like in the beginning, it was really dark and really hard. And I just felt like something would take over me that I just didn't feel like myself. And it reminded me of like a possession, like in a movie you see, and like
Yeah.
that's like what kind of like really inspired like the more darker version of Mark Divine. Like, who is this character? What is he dealing with? Why does he kind of transform into this demon whenever something doesn't go his way? Like, so it was really, really fun to like experiment and play with the character again. But, you know, everything that I put into like these books or the imagery, it's always like, it always has some type of meaning. Like, it's not meant to be shocking. Like, it's
Yeah.
always has some type of like meaning to me, and like, yeah.
No,
That's a
no,
lot, sorry.
that's amazing. No, no, the long answers are good. Gives us all more information, and that's really the beauty of art, is that you can use those painful moments, and a lot of times they help other people too. Like, um,
Yeah.
yeah, and that's what matters, being able to reach other people, being able to, I'm so happy you're able to share your art, and that you were able to turn, that trauma into something beautiful and poetic. And yeah, I'm
Yeah.
excited for you and your book release. That's
Thank
awesome.
you so much.
Yeah. So what has been the biggest highlight of your writing journey?
Um, Probably being able to release them. It took me so long to feel comfortable and like not scared to release things. And I was shying away from topics that I thought people like wouldn't want to read, or like I was scared of like, what's my grandma gonna think? Like, and just like I think everyone has those moments, but like when you realize when you just like don't care and you're fearless, and I don't know, you just get these like wings and you just fly so high. And I think that was like the highlight of was recognizing this confidence I never had, and
Yeah.
like creating a world that was mine. And and not having anybody like step on my toes, walking on eggshells. Like I just kind of like created a world that like was completely for me, and like it felt so fun and freeing. So I think that was the highlight of like this whole journey, this whole time, was being able to do that and ultimately connect with people, and hearing people that I don't even know tell me that like they like resonate with something that I make, whether it's like a photo I create, or it's a piece of poetry, or it's anything. Like they feel the same thing. And I would never wish that on anybody, because I remember how I was feeling when I wrote it, and I was like, I never want anybody to feel like that. But it's cool because I met so many people through it, and people really resemble with the character and like the storyline and relate to him in different ways. And I think that's been like the highlight, is like meeting so many cool people and hearing what they think of the story. And I don't know what it means to them, I think.
Yeah. Oh, that's so powerful. So does your photography inspire your writing, and vice versa? I saw you created the cover for your new book, Nightmare.
Yes, I did. So yeah, a lot of imagery I'm inspired by. So like sometimes I'll like make an edit, and then like I'll write a poem about it, or I'll write a poem and then make an edit or make a photo inspired by the poem. I do because I tend to do everything myself. Like I'm very like a control freak. I like to like manage myself. I have to do create everything myself. But usually when it comes to books, I usually have my friends step in, or, I have a very small team of people that work with me with this kind of stuff that I trust. So it was really difficult during the pandemic to create things. So I just remember I was like, well, Nightmare is all a book about the dark sides of myself and my brain. I wrote it myself. I think I have to create the cover myself. So I just like had so many ideas for the cover, and it never worked out. I was just like, it's not the one. And I just really sat on it for like 6 months. And then finally I just was playing around with different images and playing around with just like edits and stuff one night. And it just like clicked. And I was like, this is it. This is the one. And I was like, it just makes so much sense for the story. It makes so much sense for the character. And the cover has so many double meanings and it means so much to me. And it's probably like my favorite one so far. I just like love it
Yeah.
so much. um, but yeah, I created both covers myself and I did the paperback and hardcover myself, and I did it all during the pandemic. So I like was really holding on to this for a long time. Um, and yeah, it's been really wild.
Sweet. Oh, that's awesome. So as we're closing on the interview, I got one more question for you. So what's in store for the future? Any new goals or writing related projects coming up after Nightmare?
Oh yes. I have lots of
Yeah.
ideas.
Oh,
I'm
awesome.
not going anywhere. I have a lot of cool ideas. Nightmare has like two, like there's a paperback version and then a hardcover version, and then the interior is the same but the covers are different. And then I'm going to be releasing, I'm really excited for it actually, it's almost done. It's kind of like a free version of Nightmare. It's really small, it's like an add-on, like bonus I guess, called Insomnia,
Oh,
and it's going to be on my Wattpad. So I really like posting things on there that I just kind of like don't, they're too short to make into like a book, and I just kind of like want to post them and people can just view them. So I'm really excited for that to come out. And then I have in the works, I think I'm going to be making a book series of like creepy stories.
ooh, like short stories?
Yeah, I really want to branch out. I think it'd be fun. I've had
Yeah.
a lot of ideas. I have really cool, awesome people around me that are willing to help out and write it with me. And I'm really excited to introduce new people with me. And it's kind of a like collaborative project. So it's going to be a challenge to make, but I'm willing to take the risk and the challenge. I'm really excited for it. So yeah, I definitely will getting into my Goosebumps era.
Ooh, nice. Oh, that's
So it's
exciting.
really fun. And more poetry books, the Mark Divine character will evolve and change and it will get darker and it will happen. There's a lot of ideas for him.
Nice. Oh, sweet. Well, I'm super excited for your book. I will definitely be
Thank
purchasing
you.
it because, yeah, I'm super excited. It sounds
Oh,
amazing, so artistic, and yeah, I can't wait.
thank you so much. Yeah, I hope you like it. I really do.
Yes. You have any final words before we close the interview today?
um, Thank you for supporting me. Thank you for letting me talk to you on this interview. It's been so awesome. I'm just so excited, and I really hope everybody just has a good day. Be nice to each other, do something you love, compliment a stranger, go outside, just be
Sounds
nice.
perfect. Definitely. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I hope you have a great rest of your day too.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Okay, bye, Mark.